No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
I'm saying yes. You cannot have remission of sin without sanctifying grace. You have to get that from the treasury of the church. But I'm saying that Pius XI, his decree. Would you have an answer for my objection?
It's Clement XI, not Pius XI.
I'm sorry. I keep saying that because I was reading Pius XI earlier. I'm sorry, and it just came to my mouth. I'm sorry. But that Clement XI, that shows how you are to interpret Boniface to mean that the church, when he uses church, he talks about the treasury of the graces in the church.
No, that error does not say anything about Boniface VIII.
No, I'm saying that it shows that that's the only way to interpret Boniface.
That is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard, or one of them. That is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard. He doesn't mention anything about Boniface VIII. He doesn't mention anything about sanctifying grace.
No,
he's clearly condemning.
You have to reconcile it.
Well,
it
can't reconcile it. I can easily answer it. Anybody can. It says outside the church, no grace is granted. False. Of course, that's false because there are graces granted outside the church.
No, but okay. What's my objection to that? Say it in your own words. I've said it 3 times and I sent it to an email, and I don't think you understand it. So how about you say to me my argument, and then give your response. I'll give you like 4 minutes.
I don't need to do that. Your argument is that you don't believe...
The fact that you won't shows you don't understand.
No, I do understand it. Believe me, you don't even understand basic concepts of Catholic theology. Okay, that's been proven. That you don't believe the Jansenists believe that there are no predisposing grace outside the church, so you hold they couldn't have been condemning that. But you're wrong because this is lifted from their writings. Period.
Yeah.
So that's the refutation.
So you're saying that their writings didn't make any sense whatsoever, that they were like saying 1 + 1 = 5?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. That because heretics do that stuff, that kind of thing. And that's what I've tried to drive through your head, but you don't get it. That it says right in this document that this is lifted from the Jansenist writings.
So you're saying the Jansenists were saying actual grace is given outside the church, no grace is given outside the church. So
that's what I'm trying to tell you, Greg. That I didn't make this up.
I think that's pretty bizarre.
Greg, that's what I'm trying to tell you. That I didn't make this up. These are the propositions put forward by Quesnel, a Jansenist. I didn't put it forward. He put it forward, and it was condemned. Then you're saying, well, they didn't believe that. Obviously, they believed that or said things to that effect. Otherwise, they wouldn't have bothered condemning it from their writings. So I think we've spent enough time on that. But the bottom line is that... Well, did
you want to talk about anything else? Like today I read...
well, I think we should... I think we should spend...
I read an article on...
I think we should...
23rd that you wrote.
I think we should get back more into the fact that how you think Benedict XVI is Catholic. The fact...
All right.
I mean, eventually we'll come to that.
Salvation, though? I'm kind of...
Well, we've discussed
another topic that might be
we've discussed quite a bit about that issue, but the fact that
I think so.
Yeah, but he clearly denies Vatican I because Vatican I holds that you are excommunicated. Let me ask you this: does Vatican I teach that you are excommunicated if you deny the papacy?
You are severed from the church by divine law, and then it has it attached excommunications to that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's what an anathema is. Am I right? Isn't that what anathema means? They're excommunicated.
Yeah, and so that would apply. You agree, therefore, to the Protestants who reject the papacy and the Eastern Orthodox. Okay, just to save us time, I'm not talking about somebody who never heard of it. I'm talking about the people who know Benedict XVI, the leaders of these Protestant communities. Okay, so you would agree that they have to be considered severed from the church, like the head of the Eastern Orthodox sects.
Well, I think a person might be excommunicated, but still in a state of grace.
Well,
I think that's positive. I mean, because excommunication is a positive law of the church that carries like canonical penalties, but that's not the exact same thing as the offense against divine law itself.
So people who are excommunicated for heresy can still have the state of grace.
Yeah, I think a person can be excommunicated for for like disobedience or something, and he might just be very, very rash or something.
No. I'm not talking.
He can turn around and even go to confession and everything, and seek to reconcile with the church, get in a state of grace, but still have the excommunication for a little while.
I'm not talking about excommunication for disobedience. I'm talking about excommunication.
No, I'm saying that excommunication, by its very nature, does not mean you're in a state of mortal sin.
Excommunication for heresy does. Yes, it does. Because heresy is a mortal sin. Okay.
Well, yeah, formal heresy if you're culpable for it, but I think we're getting into that same issue.
Anyone can hear you're just a mass of contradictions, and that's the case with anyone who would hold your position or try to defend Benedict XVI. You're led into a mass of contradictions. You say a heretic is excommunicated from the church, but he's in the state of grace. That's nonsense. That's completely illogical and false.
No, well, it's a canonical thing that an anathema does, that is used as a tool to get people not to even think about heresy. But it doesn't really have anything to do. I mean, if a Protestant, it has nothing to do with him because he's not in the visible church anyway. So the excommunication doesn't really affect him. And when he comes back to the church, all he needs to do is talk to the parish priest. He doesn't need to go to the Pope to get that excommunication lifted or anything. So it's a canonical tool to try to. I mean, that's why excommunications are used. It's a prudential thing. But
let me ask you this: can someone deviate from the doctrine of papal infallibility, like the Orthodox do, deny it or deviate from it, and gain salvation, have salvation?
Well, we've gone over this. If they're in a like a 12-year-old child, like a Protestant.
No, I'm talking about the schismatic bishops who meet with Benedict XVI, for instance, or the Protestant ministers who reject the papacy but are friends with him, and they deviate from the doctrine of the papacy. They don't think he's the head of the church.
Well,
can they deviate from that? Let me just finish the question. Can they deviate from that and keep their salvation?
I think that there could be levels of
yes or no.
Ignorance. Yeah, I think they could.
Okay, well, let me quote Vatican I.
That you're not quite aware of.
Here's Vatican I. Okay, Vatican I, speaking of the primacy of the Roman Church and the Roman Pontiff, he says, "This is the doctrine of Catholic truth, from which no one can deviate and keep his faith and salvation."
Well, deviate, yeah, but the word deviate is, you think it's an objective law. You have to do it, but as I said, a 12-year-old Protestant or an 11-year-old Protestant who hardly even knows anything about the church except for that it worships bread or something, that's what he's told, he's deviating it from it in a sense. I mean, that's what he's doing. And so you have to interpret deviation in a culpable sense, and that kind of, and then I know it's very different when you get to the leaders of the church. They're whether they're culpable or not, it's more likely that they're culpable for sure because they certainly know more. But I don't think you can absolutely know that for sure.
Right, and so you can, according to you, deviate. You just deny it. Period. You believe.
No, you deny it too because you think a 12-year-old child, a Protestant, is always in a state of mortal sin?
A Protestant by definition is someone who protests against the Catholic faith, and so
yes or no though, is a Protestant child?
You don't even allow a person to answer. I mean, as soon as I start to speak, you interrupt me.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, a Protestant by definition is someone who rejects a Catholic teaching. So all individuals who reject Catholic teachings are culpable. If you're talking about a baptized... Let me finish. If you're talking about a baptized person who is baptized as an infant and therefore made a member of the church, as we've discussed in detail in audios and articles, that individual, if he's not familiar with any of the deeper dogmas and believes in the Trinity and the Incarnation, that person remains a member of the church until that person rejects a teaching of the church. That's what Clement VI teaches clearly. Okay? And so if you're talking about a person who is a young baptized individual who doesn't understand anything of the papacy, however, knows of the Trinity and the Incarnation, that person could be a member of the church. Absolutely. However, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about people who deviate from or reject the papal office. They are heretics,
with their soul,
and you believe,
with their mind.
and you believe.
Child,
let me finish. You believe people who reject the papal office can also be saved. So you reject Vatican I.